A slow speed link, I want you to keep in mind, is 768K, less than 768K is considered a slow speed link. So some of the mechanisms that we can use to make our link more efficient include compression. Now, we might already be using, or should be using, a low payload, right? So we should be using a codec like G.729 on a lower speed link. But then we've got the header. And the header could be huge. I call it 40 bytes in size. If you look at a RTP, UDP, IP information header that might be on a voice packet, we can reduce that to 2 or 4 bytes. Whether or not we do a cyclical redundancy check depends upon the interface and iOS that you're running. So we look at link efficiency mechanisms and we say compression definitely is one way to go. Now, it is a bandwidth savings mechanism that supports large amount of traffic over a low speed link. But keep in mind, on newer routers, it isn't quite as impactful. You need to make sure that the Cisco Express forwarding is on the router, because that speeds up the mechanisms that compress on your router. But you're still compressing, even if it is high speed, you're still using some resources. And that's why the recommendation is if your link is higher than 768K, it's not really worth it to turn on header compression, because you might say, well, let's just turn on header compression everywhere. It's just not worth it. And the other impactful point about header compression is that both ends of the link have to have header compression turned on. If you have a compressed packet, if you will, coming across a link, and the other end of the link doesn't have compression turned on, it is not going to know what to do with that header, right? What's this 2 or 4 bytes I'm seeing? I also want to make you aware that the initial packet that is sent from point A to point B is not compressed. It has a lot of information in it. It has to have the destinations and so forth. So it has all this information. That just one packet though. Every packet beyond that on that phone call will only be 2 or 4 bytes of information at that point. So that's how you get that reduction in that overhead. And that's why this is one of the biggest link efficiency mechanisms that we have, is by reducing those headers. We free up a lot of bandwidth. Link fragmentation and interleaving says this. We might be on, again, slow speed, less than 768K. Our data packet could be 1,500 bytes in size. It's a big packet. And I got my little tiny voice packet stuck behind it, 24K. Out of a 56K link, it's going to take 214 milliseconds if I'm stuck behind one data packet for me to then be at the head of that interface to go out. There's a G.114 standard that says we're shooting for no more than 150 millisecond one-way delay. Well, at 214, I'm already in the hole, right? And I haven't even gotten out the interface yet. I know that's an extreme example, but that's what we're fighting here. So what we want to do is we want to take the 1,500 byte packet and we want to chop it up. But then we also want to say, once that packet is chopped up, we need to interleave those voice packets in between those chopped up data packets. It does no good if you chop up the data packet and it's still sitting in front of me. If anything, you made it worse, because now I got additional headers and footers and so forth that I'm behind. So chopping it up is one thing. Interleaving it is really the key, because now if I've interleaved that voice packet and I'm stuck behind a couple of smaller data packets, and my cohort is a couple packets back, we might get out that interface in a more timely fashion. And that's why this makes one of those great link efficiency mechanisms, again, on a slow speed link. You don't want to do this on a high speed link. There's no reason to do this. You're just, making more traffic and more problems and so forth for the situation. So you don't use this unless that link is less than 768K.